Welcome, everyone. Welcome to our webinar today. Hello, I'm going to give folks just a second to trickle in. People are joining us. Hello, all right. So good afternoon. My name is Isabel Crome. I'm a business consultant with Temple Small Business Development Center. Very glad to have you all here today for our webinar on how to create wow social media posts that prompt your audience to action. As you may know, Temple Small Business Development Center is an accredited organization, part of a national network of over 1,000 small business development centers across the country. We provide low to no cost webinar and training events like this one, as well as free individualized one-on-one business consulting. So today, our webinar on how to create social media posts that prompt your audience to action is going to be presented by Brooke Miles of Delaware Shout Out. Very glad to have Brooke with us today. Brooke knows small businesses want a social media presence they can be proud of, and she has helped hundreds of business owners transform their social media by creating an experience that's just right for them. So very glad to have Brooke leading us today, and I will hand things over to you, Brooke. Thank you.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. And thank you. So I'm really glad to be here. I'm doing a series of webinars here with the Temple SBDC. And today we're going to be talking about basically creating wow social media posts that really get people to take the action you want, whether that is, for example, getting people to engage more with your posts or click on more, or maybe to call the number on the post, whatever it is, or maybe just to rally more behind your brand and get to know your brand better, because obviously every single piece of content you put out there has a different purpose. So we're going to be talking a lot about this. I love I may be a rare bird, but I love creating content and helping people create content. So this is one of my favorite topics. So let's talk. Here are the things we're going to be talking about. And first of all, let me just minimize myself here. You didn't. Okay. So here's what we're going to be talking about. First of all, how do you find content that's relevant to your audience that they will love? Okay, that's a key thing. And a lot of people that I work with, that's one of the things that they're really hung up on in the beginning. So I imagine there's some of you out there that also have that question. Also, how do you overcome writer's block so you can really start producing posts a lot more easily? Also, I'm going to talk about some marketing magic words so that are more likely to get people to take the action you want, because obviously whether you share, a link to something or you share an image or a video or what have you, there's a caption you need to write. So what should you say there and how can you craft that? I'm also going to point you to some royalty-free imagery that doesn't have copyright issues, and an easy graphic design tool that I really like that's designed for people like me who are not graphic designers, but at least want the opportunity to make things look pretty. So I'll share that with you. And then also how to leverage video to generate more excitement. And one thing that actually I put in the chat right beforehand, so Isabel, if you could share it again. I have a YouTube channel that has right now 70 something videos on it that offer it's tons of free information for you. Feel free, my channel's called Delaware Shout Out, which is my company name, but just feel free to check it out, check out some videos that you might like. And one video in particular that I'd like to say is a compliment to what we're talking today. It's one of the more recent ones. You should see it towards the top. It's called How to Stand Out. And it's basically how to present yourself in a way that you stand out among your competitors. And it's a really nice compliment to what we're talking today. So I might recommend that you check that out. Okay, so let's talk about how you find great content. And the first thing you need to do is take just a little bit of time to think about your audience. And here are some questions that you want to ask yourself. And I know that this PowerPoint, while not every single word that comes out of my mouth is going to be in this PowerPoint, but the key questions I have in this PowerPoint are here. That didn't make sense. But anyway, the point is there's some key questions you want to ask yourself about your audience, and I have them all listed here on the PowerPoint. The first one, what keeps your audience up at night as related to your industry. So for me, for what I do, and I focus on social media, and I dabble in email marketing, all of that. But the key is that content, and how do I get content out? And the last time I posted was a while ago, and I don't know what to post. If you listen to when you listen to your customers and clients, very carefully, what their pain points are as related to what you do, and keep in mind that every single business solves a problem. Even if you are B2C or business to consumer, you're still solving a problem. If you have a women's clothing boutique, the problem that a woman might have is that she doesn't have she's looking for that next perfect outfit, because what she has in her wardrobe is that there's something missing. Okay, and you provide that. So no matter what you do, you're solving a problem. So think about the problems that people have that you can solve, or the things that you can help them with. So start listing that. Also, what are the biggest gaps in your audience's knowledge? Are there things that people make assumptions about, in your industry that you would love to educate them on? So, if we talk about women's clothing, which, by the way, like, even though I am a woman, like, I know like very little about women's clothing. So, but I would love to see, articles or videos about how to accessorize. I have no idea. Okay. So, that would be a gap. Or, for example, in real estate, people have a lot of misconceptions about how to price their home, or what they should upgrade in their home to make it more sellable, or whatever it is. So think about, what are the biggest gaps in your audience's knowledge? Write that down as well. What are questions people are often asking you? These are great ideas for content. And by the way, I'm going to define content as anything that either you produce yourself, or like, your own blog article or video or whatever, or a third party video or article or image that you're sharing. Okay. So content, just think of content as the big picture. And we're just trying to think of, what are the topics that are really on your audience's mind, and that's really what you should be sharing. Also, what sort of myths do you often dispel? And actually, that kind of goes with the whole biggest gaps in your audience's knowledge. I don't know why I have that as 2 separate bullet points, but okay. It's so funny. I do so many PowerPoints, and then I always see something I could do better. So I also want you to think about, what is your mission? So if there's something in particular with your industry that you are so passionate about, and a change that you want to make, or a way that you want to help people, what sort of content revolves around that? Also, feel free to check out what your competitors are posting. Not that you should imitate what they do. Okay, you shouldn't, because then what's the difference between you and them? Okay, but feel free to use it as inspiration for how maybe you could do something better. Take an idea that they have, and that might give you an idea for something else. Also, what is trending in your industry? And finally, if you've been doing your social media for a while, what do your analytics say? In other words, what types of posts seem to get people, more likely to engage, or, click on the link, that type of thing. Not that all of your content should be geared towards that, but a lot of it. And by the way, there is another video that I have, and it's about how it's basically about like how to avoid, like how much self-promotion versus non-self-promotion you should have in a that you should have in your content. So check out that. You'll see that one, because here I'm primarily talking about I'm talking about educational, inspirational content, but keep in mind, you sometimes do need to share a post or two that reminds people about the services you provide, or products you provide, or a team photo, that type of thing. But I find that where people really get stuck is more on the content that we share that's outside of what's going on in our company, or what we offer in our company. So that's primarily the focus here. Now, if you're sharing third-party content, in other words, content that someone else produced, and again, you're still linking to that organization's website, so they're going to get full credit. You're just sharing a link to to them, or you're sharing your video or whatever it is. You're not taking credit for any of it. You're just sharing. Okay. But one source I really like, and I'm going to toggle out of this PowerPoint for a second and show it to you. It's called feedly.com, and it allows you to basically choose, you think of the topics that you want to follow, and then you can choose different online sources and online magazines that always seem to have great content, and you kind of put them in a list. And then anytime you want to go into Feedly, all of your favorite sources that share all of your favorite content on your favorite topics, you can go there and find articles. So I do recommend that. I'm going to show that to you as I'm going to escape out. By the way, if you have any questions, this is an interactive, it's webinar. I know I'm kind of just talking, but this is interactive. Please, please, please feel free to put something in the chat or the Q&A. So, just, and I'll be very gently interrupted, here and there to answer questions. So again, don't wait till the end. Ask questions as they come to you. I'd rather have things as interactive as possible. Okay, so let me go ahead and show you Feedly. Okay, and what do you know? I opened up all the things I need to show you in advance. So this is my Feedly account. And so for example, you'll see I have, oh, by the way, Feedly has, this is the free version of Feedly. I think there's a paid version for $5 a month, $6 a month, which I really should do because it has some really cool features. But anyway, this is the free version. So you'll see that I have a bunch of social media sources right here. And, and then I have some marketing and some time management. So I'm looking on the left-hand side. So you can see you have your sources organized by the different types of categories that you like. And then, again, when you log into Feedly, you could say, what would be good? Ooh, testing basically a Facebook ad creative, the path to better sales. And then you could basically, click on it, and I just have to click on it one more time. And that takes me straight to the horse's mouth. This takes me straight to the article. I can check it out, see if I like it. And if so, obviously copy and paste the link at the top and share it with a caption, which we'll be talking about. So again, Feedly is a great, great way to organize content. And let's see, by the way, do we have any, I think I see a couple questions pop up in the Q&A, but I didn't click on them yet.
Yes, so we have a couple questions.
Yeah.
The first question is, just started an Instagram account, kind of tough to build following. Any recommendations on best approach to grow following when you're starting?
Okay, yeah, so there are two things to share about that. One is rate content, which we're talking about today. But the other thing, and actually that's kind of the big thing. The other thing you can do is follow, at least follow other businesses. And I don't, follow other businesses, and some of them will be likely to follow you. And I'm not recommending that you follow someone and then unfollow them. I don't believe in that practice, but just follow other business accounts. It's always better to follow a business account than it is a person. That's sometimes a little creepy. But yeah, follow other business accounts, and some will follow you back, and that's been a really good way. But you can also, actually, come to think of it, you can also cross-pollinate. So for example, let's say you have a Facebook page, you could always have a Facebook post that encourages people to follow you on Instagram and provide the link for that. So you could do that. I also, by the way, another thing, which a lot of the tips would apply to Instagram, not all of them, but I do have a video on how to grow your Facebook page and a lot of different ideas for that. And a lot of the ideas that I offer there would also help with Instagram. But I will tell you, in the end, great content is going to help you the most, because at least the last time I checked the Instagram algorithm, which changes all the time, when you put a piece of content out there and Instagram has to decide, like how high it's going to show up in people's news feeds, they don't base it on your number of followers or how popular you are. They base it on, like, what is your engagement rate? In other words, what percentage of your followers are engaging with your posts. So the better your posts are, again, which again, I hope to give you lots of ideas, the more likely people will engage, and the more likely they engage, the more then Instagram will continue to deliver your posts to more feeds. Also, you can use a lot of hashtags in your posts as well. And I'm just giving you like literally the tip of the iceberg, but I hope that helps. And I have a video coming out next week about hashtags and how to use them to gain visibility. So you can even grow outside of, so people who are outside of your audience can see your posts, and the right people can see your posts. So that's coming out somewhere between next Tuesday and Thursday, depending on how things continue to go. I've been editing it like crazy the last week. So
awesome. There are a few other questions, Brooke, and I'm gonna read them. I'm gonna read out some questions. If there's stuff that you're gonna cover later on, I just wanted to get them out while they're here. So
yeah,
when you say find what's trending, is there a specific way to gather that information, and from where?
great. Actually, I will not be talking about that. I'm so glad whoever asked that. Thank you for asking that. Go to Google Trends. Google Trends. And it's just super, super awesome. I basically go there and it's all there. And you can also look up too, for example, let's say there's a topic you want to cover and you want to see, and maybe it's kind of a seasonal topic. For example, I was trying to figure out when to put out a video about Valentine's Day ideas for social media. And I was able to go into Google Trends and see over the last like 5 years, when did people start doing a lot of searches about Valentine's Day, ideas? What is it actually on people's minds? So you can even look at historical data, not just what's going on right now. So I would check that out.
Awesome. And then I have two others. One is, if I already have Google Workspace, do I need a Feedly or a WordPress, etc.? And then the second, is there a way to do paid advertising to only those that live within a geographic area?
Okay, so I will tell you that I don't have experience with Google Workspace. If that Google Workspace already gives you this functionality that Feedly has, go for it. I wish I knew every program out there, but I don't. But if it already does what I'm describing with Feedly, then do that. That sounds great. Oh my gosh, it was like 30 seconds ago and I already forget. What was the other question? I'm sorry.
Is there a way to do paid advertising to only those that live within a
Yes.
geographic area?
Yes. Definitely on Facebook/Instagram, which use the same like ads platform for the only and I'm almost positive you can do that for Twitter and the other major programs. Yeah, actually I know you can, like I've seen on LinkedIn even. The only exception I believe no, that's not an exception either. No, what I will say is that sometimes geography is a little bit restricted on Facebook/Instagram, depending on the nature of the ad. So, for example, if you're doing an ad that has to do with employment or housing or credit, and I think there's something else, or something like political, I think that's what it is, then you can do some geographic, but not completely. But if you're outside of those categories, then you can get as granular as like a certain mile radius of a point on a map, or even by zip codes. So cool. Thank you for the questions. All right. These are really good questions. Okay, so I will continue and keep the questions coming, please. Okay, so that was Feedly. This is a screenshot of Feedly if for whatever reason I couldn't get into Feedly, but obviously, of course, I could. Okay, so that was for third-party content. But let's say you want to have some of your content, all of your content or some of it, or a little bit of it, be original content from you and your company. Then, and then again, that could be articles, it could be videos, infographics, whatever it is. So what I strongly recommend, and I do this also. I do this regularly. I keep a running list of ideas, and I'm updating it. Gosh, at least twice a week. Not that like I say, oh, I need to update this, but usually like a client is asking me a question, like that is such a good idea. I should really do a video about that. And again, my main form of content is video. It doesn't mean yours should be, but when I'm just telling you what I'm doing here. So, but update it often. The moment you think of something, if you can't get to your computer or your phone right away to, write it on a sticky note, do whatever, but just make sure you get the idea out of your head and onto something so it can get to your running list. And having that running list will really help you, because when you already produce content and you have like, my list is so huge, it's like, I have no excuse not to produce something. Really, there are too many things that people have questions about, and you almost start feeling like wow, I really need to educate more people more on such and such. And then that actually makes the content creation process, I think, just even better. Okay. But some of us have writer's block. I know that I've dealt with this a lot. And I would say that I'm kind of a writer by trade. I've been educated in that and everything, um, but we could still kind of get stared with a blank piece of paper or a blank screen or anything like that. So the first thing I want you just to always, always remember that it's not about how you appear. Well, it is, but it isn't. It's not about you so much as it is your audience. So think more about how can I serve my audience, okay? And then it just becomes a little bit easier. And then also set. Actually, I'll give you an example. One thing that there's a post that I'm going to be putting out today on LinkedIn because I know it'll resonate there, where I'm just talking about the fact that I'm working on a video, and normally I get one out every single week, and I'm talking about a highly edited video. That takes a lot of time, but this one is just taking a lot longer, and I had to struggle between, like, do I get something out on time because that's quote unquote expected, or do I take the time to make it right? I decided to make it right. So, you know, and I realized that this is something a lot of people struggle with, like the time versus quality standpoint. So, while I'm a really big fan of consistency, as you'll see in the between this slide and the next slide. The quality does need to be there too. But the key is, I really thought about, wow, this is a problem that I have, but I bet a lot of people that I'm connected with and who follow me also have this problem, and struggling about when do they get a project out. So I'm going to write a post about it, and I'm excited about it because I feel like I'm sharing a struggle that I have right now this week, and maybe other people can relate to it. Okay, so you can also okay, so that was bullet point number one. Bullet point number two is set a goal. Okay. For example, maybe write 3 posts a week. And by the way, I'm not talking about 3 of your own original pieces of long form content. This could be, for example, writing 3 quick posts, like social media updates a week, where it's, a quick link to an article, or, sharing an image, or, whatever it is. So, and you'll see that it can be a pretty quick process. And also, I strongly recommend that you block out non-negotiable time in your calendar. And I know that all of us as entrepreneurs, what happens is all of us have fallen into this. I don't know of a single person who hasn't, where we write something in the calendar and then something else comes up. And especially when you're wearing so many hats, running your own company, it's more likely to happen. So what I recommend is, if you're going to block out non-negotiable time, do it during a time that is maybe quieter, or you have the most energy. For a lot of people, that's in the morning, but for some people, they're night owls. But block it out. Just block it out. And really, like, short of a dire emergency, block out the time to do it. Also, in general, aim for consistency over perfection. That video project I was telling you about, I mean, if I tried to get it out this week, I would probably give it a grade of like a C or a D. Okay, it's not good. I want to get it to at least a B plus. So I need to wait till next week for that. But in general, I've seen a lot of people struggle with this. Don't feel like every single post has to be this incredible A plus effort, because if you do that, you might get out a post once a month. Okay. But if you say, you know what, I think I can consistently put out A or A minus, okay, which is still probably better than what most of your competitors are doing. It's better to do that, because one thing that we always learn in sales is our touch points. And the more you can have a touch point with a person, the more it speeds up the sales cycle. Okay. So think of every single social media post as a touch point. So you need more touch points. Okay. So I also recommend that you write quickly, and set a time limit for yourself. Because if you set a time limit, you're way more likely to actually get stuff on paper or on the screen, and then just edit later. The things I've written and produced, my first draft is usually not good at all. So anyway, two other points about this, and that is, first of all, let's say you are creating original content, and let's say it's a long blog article, okay? And you're like, well, wow, this is like becoming 1,000 words, 1,500 words, this is going on forever. Break it up into a part one and part two, or part one, part two, and part three, that, you could spread out those chunks over a different period of time. So feel free to do that. When I started practicing that, that really helped immensely. And then if you're writing, another thing to really speed things up for you is when you're writing social media captions, in other words, the commentary that's like immediately above or below the image or the link or whatever that you're sharing. Don't write a novel. Aim for about 40 to 80 characters, not just because it's faster, but because posts that have a shorter commentary or shorter caption are much more likely to be engaged with. So you get less pressure on yourself and you're more likely to make people happy. It can get very stressful to click and to see a very long post and you're like, oh, I don't have time to read all of this. But so don't do that to others. Just keep it short. Sometimes you can't always make it short, but take the pressure off yourself. So
Can I interrupt with a couple questions?
yes, yes.
Great. So I have one question about Feedly that I just wanted to get in, which is, can I upload content from Feedly to my blog? Is it free?
Okay, so in other words, if the person's writing a blog, that the content from Feedly is from that original source, like someone else wrote that article. So, it's one thing if in your blog article you say, and by the way, for more information about blah, 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 check out this article by so-and-so about this, and then you link. But obviously, I wouldn't copy and paste content that you find on Feedly because it's not meant to repurpose under your name in a byline. It's basically, for you to share that it's clear as day that someone else wrote. I hope that's answering the question. If not, let me know.
Put it in the chat if I didn't answer your question.
Yeah.
One more or two more.
Yeah.
If you post on a Facebook business page, should you share it to your personal page and LinkedIn?
Ooh, okay. So those are two separate animals here. So let's start with sharing to your personal page. My rule of thumb is, while yes, if you share to your personal page, a lot more people will see it because Facebook will deliver posts to more news feeds when they come from a personal profile or personal page than they come from a business page. At the same time, you don't want to you don't want to run the risk of basically treating friends and family like potential customers. I would say maybe for me, maybe once a quarter or even less frequently than that, I might share something from my business page to my personal page if I just feel like there's something personal about what I'm doing that's really cool to share. But in general, I don't, and it's more because relationships rule, and I'd rather have good relationships, and I know that the sales will come. In terms of sharing to LinkedIn, it depends on your, it depends on your industry. I will say that, if you're business to business, you should absolutely be on LinkedIn. But even if you're business to consumer, everyone on LinkedIn is still a human being. For example, realtors are a perfect example. They're selling houses, and yes, their content is, most people think of Facebook and Instagram for their content, but why not put some content also on LinkedIn, because everyone on LinkedIn still needs to have a roof over their heads too. So I would do that. So I wouldn't be able to answer more about that without knowing the industry, but usually there's no reason not to share something on a particular social media platform. Nothing bad comes out of having more exposure. So I hope that answers that.
Yeah, it's good. And then one other question, which
Yeah.
you kind of addressed a little bit in breaking up into chunks. How long should an average post be? Also, these questions with industry information, it's home care industry is the industry for this question and for the last one about cross.
Oh, okay. Okay, got it. Okay, so home care industry. Okay, so in terms of how long, how long a post should be, like original content. Okay, if it's a blog article, there are two different answers for this. It depends on who you ask. If you ask me or other just general content producers who are just trying to encourage you to get stuff out there. 300 words, 500 words. So, you know, like about a Microsoft Word document, you know, single space, maybe one page, something of that nature. But I will tell you, like if you're talking to an SEO or, you know, search engine optimization expert, they'll tell you at least 1,000 words, because longer articles that also have images and video and are just rich with all this media, will get picked up a lot more by Google. So and you could outsource something like that, but it would cost a lot of money to outsource, you know, that type of project. So I would say it just depends on what's important to you. For me, in general, I'd rather do the consistency thing, and I'd rather have shorter articles that can also be digested by my audience in smaller chunks, and also give me the opportunity just to have more touch points. But again, it depends on what your goal is. And with home care, I would say I would definitely do LinkedIn, because I've seen other home care companies in that on LinkedIn, and it works well. So, okay. Thank you for the questions, and I encourage more. These are awesome. Thank you. You guys are asking really good questions. Okay, so we're going to move on now to marketing magic words, and this is not an exhaustive list, okay? But obviously, we've all heard of like the cliches, like, you know, free and act now, which do work, okay? But I want to point out some other words that might not be, they're often not on people's radars as much, but can be incredibly powerful. One of them is, and probably the two biggest ones that for me that are so important are you and because. Okay, so you, in other words, when you're writing a caption, put the words you and your and yourself as much as you can, because and I just used the word because there. It just, because you're speaking to that person. One thing I strongly recommend is to, and you might have heard of this before, really have a concrete idea of who your customer is, or client is. And I don't mean just like a vague idea, but like in your mind, give them a name, like create like a bio in your mind of this person, and, you know, what is their life like, and, you know, what do they enjoy doing, what are their hobbies, what is their family like think of everything. And then actually when you write, you're writing to that person. And I will tell you, it just makes everything more personal, but it also forces you to use the word you. The word because has been just shown to be extremely powerful when you can use the word because. And also the, like, for example, here's, you know, here's the way to get rid of stains off of a tablecloth, or I don't know what it is, you know, but the word the seems like, okay, this is the answer. Okay. Other ones are easy, discover. Let's see. I'm just going to read them off. But again, you can look all this up, but these were my favorite ones that didn't seem very as cliche as other ones. Save, proven. I love proven. Save, real results is good. Secret is good because people like to be part of something that is like an exclusive bit of knowledge is really good. Instant, how to has been incredibly powerful for me. And what I've learned, I did a whole like analysis of my YouTube videos, and the ones that had a title that I had how to had a much higher click-through rate than those that didn't. So if you see a lot of how-tos in my in my YouTube videos, it's because I changed a lot of them, and they do better now. You know, after putting in the words how to at the very beginning, it's kind of crazy. Effective, value, time saving, see, and join. Okay. And let's see. Okay, so now that we're going to talk about royalty-free imagery, and just keep in mind that first of all, anytime you can provide like a real life photo, you know, for, you know, of, you know, that's more homegrown, that is the best thing to do, but that's not always possible. And it's okay to use stock imagery, and there is some stock imagery out there that is insanely cheesy, and then there's stock imagery, excuse me, which I think is a lot better. So, and also don't use if you see an image, just because you search for something on Google or you see it on social media, it doesn't mean it's free for the taking, and you don't want to run the risk of that being found out, and then that company, you know, Suze you. I mean, it could, I've heard it happen to at least a couple people over the last several years. It's not a common thing. I mean, it's usually once every few years I hear about someone that this has happened to, but it happens. So instead of going through that, just I would check out, there are two sites I really like. One is pixabay.com and the other one is unsplash.com. And let me go over to Unsplash right now. Okay, right here. Okay, I will tell you, I prefer Pixabay, but everyone else in the world seems to prefer Unsplash, so I'm showing you Unsplash. But for example, let's say you want to search for an image that has family in it. Okay, and I typed in family, but you can also have family home, family dinner, family at home. Let's do family dinner, why not? Okay, because maybe it's relevant to your post, and then you can go ahead and see some images, and you can go ahead and choose one and download it and use it for the content that you are sharing. So again, unsplash.com, and has lots of free images. Okay. In terms of graphic design, I am a big fan of canva.com, and again, it's meant for non-graphic designers, although I do know a couple graphic designers who actually use it for some things because it's just so easy and works really, really well. And it had, and I'll just show you for those of you, I find like half the people out there are familiar with it, but then half aren't, and I think everyone should know about it. So it has like a large graphics library, and I'm on the pro version because of some things I need for my videos, but the free version should work for you just fine. And let me go ahead and show you what that looks like. Where'd it go? Okay, so actually when you go into Canva, you'll see a whole bunch of stuff. But for example, this is for a realtor. Pardon me. And this was like a really, really simple thing, but you know how like it's this total seller's market. So she just wanted to get it. I'm so sorry about this. I'm gonna get a drink of water. I apologize. Thank you. So because this is seller's market, she wanted to get a post out about a house even before it's listed, because we have a feeling that we can get it sold, or she can get it sold. I have nothing to do with it. I'm just trying to help with the post. But before it's even listed. So basically I was able to, you know, she emailed me the photo, I put it in, I did brighten it up. So for example, if I click on adjust here, you'll see I made the brightness a little bit more. I made the contrast a little more. I did the opposite of blur. In other words, I made it a little sharper. So you can like play with all these dials right here. We even moved the photo around to center it exactly where it needs to go. And then I put a rectangle here. And then we put in the words coming soon, which is like a separate thing right there. So that was something that we just did like earlier this week together, and that was kind of fun. But you can also see that let's say I wanted to search for but you can also do different graphic things. Like for example, I needed let's say you need a thought bubble, which I actually needed for something else I was working on. Wait, that is not what I needed. Oh wait, sorry, elements. Try this, sorry. Thought. I can't spell thought. Okay, bubble. Okay. And so for example, then I could even like choose one and put it in there, and then I can go ahead and, you know, add text, you know, and then, you know, put that in as, you know, put that text in the thought bubble and everything. So sorry, this is like, I'm not going to like you do the whole thing, and I can make this bigger. So anyway, there's like a lot you could do with this. I need to get this out just in case my client needs this again. So anyway, there's a lot of fun stuff that you can play with in terms of elements. You can upload your own images, or there's a whole bunch of images that I've uploaded for different things. You could choose different styles. It's a lot of fun. I will tell you, I enjoy Canva a lot. So if you need to create something on your own, that's a good way to do it.
I have one quick question about Canva.
Yes.
So 2 questions from Canva, and then I do have a couple other questions after. So one is there a way to sort on Canva for the free items? And I believe there is. It's under filters in the
yes.
search field, right?
Yes. So for example, let me do, I'll do thought bubble again. And then if you click on this right here for filters, you can choose between free or pro. So if I do free, I could do that. But I can also, let's say you just want a static image, you don't want the animated ones, you could also do that as well. So I'm going to apply the filters, and now you can see all the ones that are free, which are still a lot. In general, I find there are a lot of different options for things.
And then the last question, which I think another participant has answered, but can you do this on the phone? Can you do it on mobile?
Yes, you can use Canva on the phone. I think all the functionality is on the phone as it is on desktop. I'm a desktop gal, but I know there was at least one time in the last couple of years that I had a graphic design emergency, if one were to have one, and I did it on my phone, but and I was able to do what I needed on my phone for that. So thank you.
Do you want to take, I have a couple questions that are a little more specific to the business owners involved. Do you want to save those for the end or take them now? I know you've
Oh,
got-
I'll take them now. That's fine.
Okay, great. So the first is, how do you increase your Instagram followers? I manage 8 pages on Facebook with over 15,000 likes or friends. Thank you. How do you increase your Instagram followers?
Yes, and really it's going to be the same types of tips that I would recommend for that I recommended earlier. And actually I'm going to add something to that as well, but just as a refresher, having, I hate to say it, but having good content is going to, increase that on Instagram. Following other accounts and, being, and following other accounts that you plan to continue following is also really good. Strategically using hashtags that will, because people are more likely to on Facebook to say, oh, I wonder what's going on with that hashtag, and that increases the chances that your post will show up under that hashtag category for anyone looking for that. That also helps. But I will say too that if you put an ad out there, since you're already established on Facebook, and you put an ad out there that goes on Facebook and Instagram, and it's delivered to both Facebook and Instagram, that's going to, from a paid standpoint, increase your visibility and then thus increase your chances of people seeing your post that way. And there's a chance, obviously, they can go ahead and click in and learn, just check out your account from there too. So that would be another way to do it that's paid rather than organic, but it can really help.
Okay, and then the second question is, the asker has a PCP, which I think means primary care physician medical practice, that offers both concierge care and traditional care. How do I market this hybrid practice model? How do I reach each market?
Okay. Oh boy, that requires a whole strategy. But I would say, in terms of, don't be scared to go onto Facebook, go onto Instagram, go onto LinkedIn. I would have to develop an entire content strategy, but keep in mind, think about your different audiences in terms of, I bet there's a lot of overlap, however, in terms of what each of those audiences needs, and things that you would want to educate them on, and content you would want to share with them. I do not recommend having a separate Facebook page. Let's talk about Facebook. I do not recommend having a separate Facebook page for one type of customer versus another. It gets too fragmented that way. It's just a mess. It would be better just have like one page for, like, one Facebook page, one Instagram account, one LinkedIn company page. And then obviously if you're on LinkedIn, also just one LinkedIn personal profile of yourself. But I would, that requires a lot of hours of thought, but I hope this gives you some ideas. I'm sorry, but yeah, definitely think of where the overlaps are to begin with, and start from there. And then you can also decide, do you want to promote more of your concierge service, or more of the, I don't know what to call it, regular, the non-concierge service? If you want to promote more than a concierge, you could, always have some self-promotional posts that say, by the way, in addition to our normal practice, we also offer concierge services. For those of you who don't know, that type of thing. So you can kind of have a mix there. I hope that gives you some ideas to start.
There's 2 questions that are that have come in that are pretty similar, which is, how do you find trending or relevant hashtags pertinent to your topic or subject of discussion on Instagram? And how do you find the best hashtags by reading social media metrics? So I know earlier you talked about Google Trends and Feedly.
Yes, sure. So let me, but in terms of
sorry.
for Instagram, just a second here, let me go to Instagram right here, just a second. And you could do this on the phone as well, just so you know, but I'm just going to show you here on my desktop. But let's say I want to go to, sorry, these were ones I was looking at, but basically let's say you're a realtor, okay, and you say, oh no, that's actually not the best example here. Okay, let's just do social media, okay. So I'm gonna just type in social media. You just start with something and you'll say, okay, great, social media, that's a really, really popular hashtag right there. And so social media marketing, et cetera, et cetera. And you can basically come up with a whole list. And again, I do recommend checking out my video that's coming out next week. It's going to go into a lot more detail, but what you can do, and also in terms of even where you should place your hashtags, because it depends on the platform. But I would go through this and basically create your own list that you can, whether you keep it in a Word document or you keep it in just a place where it can auto populate, when you need it to. But the one word of warning I give you, and this will apply to any social media platform you're using hashtags with, is that if you have an insanely popular hashtag, let's say it's hashtag social media. Okay, yeah, I've put that as among my list of hashtags, but I also look for ones that are not as popular, because on hashtag social media, let me just click on that as an example. What are the chances of the millions and millions of hashtag of those that are hashtag social media? What are the chances that I'm going to show up at the top of the millions I'm competing with? It's like it's very slim. So remember that you're in competition with other people using a hashtag as well. So it's better to choose ones that are, still being used, but a little bit less popular. So really just a matter of typing stuff in. I'm pretty sure, I know there are other sites that can show you those trends, but I've been, and I wonder if Iconosquare, so it's ICONO Square, Iconosquare. It is a paid service, but that third-party tool might be able to help you. But I've done all my research on Instagram on the site itself.
As a follow-up, how do we know which hashtags are generating the most interactions? How can we compare the metrics?
You might be able to find that on Iconosquare, and there might be another. You're asking a really good question. A really, really good question. I would have to look into if there's particular software on that, but I will tell you, if it's your own hashtags that you are using, if you use a third-party tool like Iconosquare, it can tell you things like, okay, when you use this hashtag, it gets more engagement than when you use that hashtag. So I don't know offhand of a third-party tool that will say, here are the hashtags that are getting the most engagement. I could show you which ones are most popular. You just go on Instagram and do that. But in terms of the ones that get the most engagement, I know that at least you can get that reporting on a more granular level related to your account on Iconosquare. And I think it's something like $20 a month or something like that. But if you're really depending on Instagram for a huge part of your digital marketing experience for your business, then that could totally be worth it. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you. Okay, and I'm actually like writing. You guys are also asking such good questions. I'm thinking of more video ideas. So just so you know, if you saw that I don't know if you happen to see me, if you, like that's what's going on there. That's what I was writing down.
I have a couple others, but if you want to save them, I know you've got like a few more slides. Do you want to...
A couple more slides, yes. How about if I just go through a couple more slides and. How many more do I don't have that many more. So how about if I just finish this and then I'll continue to
Q&A. Sounds good.
Okay, cool. Okay, so some design tips, whether you're using Canva or another program, keep your design super, super simple for two reasons. First of all, human brains handle simple things better than complicated brains, and it doesn't matter how smart someone is. It's, people respond more to simplicity than they do to complexity. So increase your chances by, just keeping things simple, but you also want all of your design as simple as possible with as few elements as possible in your, don't go for subtlety in design. Go for things that are bright and pop and don't compete with too many other things in your design. Because also on mobile, keep in mind that images are a lot smaller. It's on a very small screen, and it doesn't usually take up the entire screen. So when I'm on Canva, and I'm designing, for example, a YouTube thumbnail, which is the image, that's the image people see if they're deciding whether they want to click into the video. When I think I'm done with it, I reduce it down to 10%. And if it still looks like it pops and it still looks like my eyes are going where they should, and it doesn't look confusing, then I know I've done a decent job with it. So always think about mobile, because like I've seen slightly less than half, about half, more than half, but let's say about half-ish people are digesting their social media on their phones. Things to stay away from are dark, collages, and also dark collages. Yeah, collages you would think would be really interesting because it shows all these different elements, but again, it's too much. I'd rather you take the best single image from a collage and share that one and really brighten it up. Don't have too much print on your images, and don't anything with more than 3 fonts is really bad. I recommend maybe just 1 font. And again, like I said before, check your graphics at 10%. And then we're gonna just talk about video. Video does can take longer, and it can be intimidating if you're just getting started with producing your own content, but I just want to kind of put it out there for you and give you some ideas, both in terms of formats as well as ideas for video, because people respond better to video than anything else. Okay, now it doesn't mean you should only do video. I'm just saying I really just want to plant this thought in your mind. And I've been to show you how important this is. And I was kind of surprised by this because my company, I've been around for 7 years. Except for the first 3 months when you first got started, I've been like super busy. I've been blessed with a lot of clients and all that. But what I found was that last year is when I started getting really serious about video because of the pandemic. I wasn't networking anymore, and I needed a reason to. I need another way to reach out to people, and I thought producing a lot of free content would be a good way, and it serves people, it makes people happy, and all that. Ever since I've been doing video, I mean, my sales are, it's like crazy. It's just like crazy. And I can't tell you how many people that have known me for years, okay, and that I've networked with for a decade, okay, even before I started my company, that have never done business with me. I start doing videos, and they either email me or call me, and the first words out of their mouths are, "So I saw that video," or "I've been watching your videos." I'm just telling you, video, and I'm a writer at heart. It pains me to think that people need to see things, like look at pictures rather than words, but people respond to video. So keep that in mind. Okay. And I'm getting, yeah, today I just brought on 2 new customers that it's solely from video. And by the way, I don't sell in my videos. It's all educational. Okay, so different formats to consider. So first of all, you have like the professional / highly edited videos, whether again, you're outsourcing the editing of it and the filming of it, or you're kind of doing everything in-house. And when I say editing, maybe you're editing it on iMovie or the PC version of iMovie, that type of thing. And you do have a lot more control when a video is edited, but it takes a lot more time. It really does. Or it'll cost you more money if you're going to outsource that task. I spend a lot of time editing my videos. My videos are also on average 7 minutes long, but because there's a lot I want to share on each topic. Another option, if you're going to go the opposite direction, are live videos, which are raw. Okay, so there's less control. It can get a little scary when technology doesn't work on your side, or the lighting could have been better, or that type of thing. There are ways you can kind of test things in advance, but I will tell you, it takes a whole lot less time, because as you're doing it, as you're filming it, basically it's being published, and wow, it's like a relief when it's done. And also people really respond to live videos even more because either, there's like that urgency factor and that raw factor, and it can feel really good. So anyway, that's an option. A hybrid option, which is available on some platforms, Facebook has it, also YouTube has this. You could do a premiere type of video. And what that means is you're still editing it in advance, but you're publishing it as a quote unquote premiere. Premiere ends up being, it's one of the options you'll see when it says, how do you want to publish this, and you put premiere. So what that means is that as it's being published, it'll come out, like people be notified, this will come out at such and such time on such and such date, and then it goes out on that day and time as anticipated. And then as it's happening, again, this video you've already pre-recorded, okay, but you'll be there to answer questions in the, in the comments and have conversations and engage. So it's a way of creating the excitement factor, but still having more control over your videos. So that is a good thing that you can do. Some video ideas, okay, and keep in mind that a lot of this can overlap as well with other types of original content you may want to produce if you don't want to do video right away, okay? But you could do tutorials if there's, whether you have a service or a product, or maybe you have certain products that you want to teach people how to use a certain thing or give them ideas. You could also do answers to certain frequently asked questions, and I wouldn't recommend necessarily having a single video or piece of content on all of the frequently asked questions, but have each individual piece of content or each individual video about a particular frequently asked question. Maybe you want to debunk some industry myths or customer testimonials. This one I would recommend editing probably, to make it like super polished, but you can do customer testimonials as well, announce new products or services. But then also, as we get back more into normal world and non-COVID world, as we're now seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, which is awesome. If you participate in different events, share footage from those events, or maybe some things behind the scenes, at your, at the office or anything of that nature that really adds a human element. But I do recommend just dip your toe into it. And one thing I've heard a lot from, like, especially YouTubers, because I've like been doing a lot of YouTube classes and stuff like that, they'll always say, the first is the worst, and I would say my first was the worst. So and each one gets just a little bit better. So don't expect perfection. Just try it out. Just try it out. And I think that if you just do one little video, it might encourage you to keep on doing more. And phew, that is the main thrust of the content here. And I am very happy to continue answering other questions.
Okay, so the first question that I have, and keep them coming, y'all, is when posting on the different platforms daily or 3 times a week, should we share the same content across all of them?
Yeah. Okay. So there are 2 schools of thought on this, and I have a very strong opinion about it. So the best practice, according to a lot of social media, social media pros out there, is you should absolutely use completely different content on all the different sites. Oh, by the way, I have a whole video on this, but I'm going to do this. I'm just going to do a spoiler alert. I'm going to give you the answer right here. Okay. So, and the social media pros will say everything should be completely different because you want it to be the most custom experience possible. But that's exhausting. I mean, like, unless you're literally not doing anything else in your life, like, you have other things you need to do with your business, with your home, with your family, with everything, So creating content like that, I think, would be insane for most people. The other thing to keep in mind, not only from a sanity standpoint, is who's really going to notice if you put the same stuff out there, even at the same time. If someone has, like, 3 different monitors going on, and they have your Facebook page open somewhere, and then they have your LinkedIn open, and then they have Twitter open, and then they on their phone they're checking you out on Instagram, like, oh, they have all the same posts. No one's doing that. Or if someone is doing that, and I hate to say stalking you that way, you have bigger problems. Like, no one is doing this. In my 7 years of business, I have had only 1 person comment, and I share the same exact content. Now, that said, there needs to be a little bit of a middle ground here, because let's say you're posting on Twitter, okay? A tweet looks different than a regular Facebook post, which looks different than an Instagram post. Or they should all be customized. The way they're written I'm not saying to use completely different sentences, but a tweet looks a little different. Usually have like, the Twitter handles and the hashtags in the middle of the sentence. Facebook shouldn't have any hashtags whatsoever. Instagram should have the hashtags at the end. LinkedIn has its own set of rules. So I adjust things from a hashtag standpoint for each one, and I use a program called I'll put it in the chat right here. It's called Social Pilot, but there are lots of them out there. Okay, I'm just going to show you the one that I do. There's also Social Pilot, and actually I'll give you another one. That both of these are really good. Okay, so two different websites: socialpilot.co and then buffer.com, and then both of those, when you're writing a post, you have the opportunity to customize the post before it goes out on each platform. So I could say, okay, on Twitter I want it to look like this, so that way you don't have to like drag yourself into every single social media platform.
Awesome. And I'm just gonna take a second to drop a link to our survey in the chat. We are definitely gonna answer, there's more questions here, but just dropping the event survey in the chat. If you have to run, people can give feedback. And I'll share it again at the end. So, okay, so thank you for that. I have another question here, and I'm going to go back and look through the chat for them, but right now I'm answering what's in the Q&A, so put your questions there if you have them. I have more of them. So this question is, can you go over the free ways to see metrics and analytics in Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, or some helpful tips when reading those numbers?
Okay, excellent. Yeah, so let me go through that. And by the way, like I'm so excited that like we're done with the presentation early and we have technically another half hour. So like what other questions you have, I will answer them for you. Okay, so the best free way I have found to check out analytics is, except for Instagram, by the way, is on the sites themselves. So on Facebook, it's Facebook Insights. On Twitter, I think it's called Twitter Analytics. LinkedIn, it's called LinkedIn Insights. I'm sorry, I'm mixing up my words right now. But all of those sites have their own, set of analytics. Are there programs out there where you can kind of, combine everything? Yes, but they tend to cost something, or they don't give all the information. So it's better just to go into each site individually. For Instagram, ironically, I don't feel like the analytics that you would get directly from Instagram are that good. And Iconosquare, which again is the one that's $20 a month. By the way, they don't even they hardly know I even exist. So like I don't have any deal with them or anything like that. They're really good. But Iconosquare's analytics on your Instagram account are better than what Instagram could tell you about your Instagram account. It's really, really funny. So I would probably recommend something of that nature. And then in terms of the most important metrics, they are so if I did a video on this as well, but and I'm trying to remember what I said, but I will tell you that engagement rate is definitely one of them. So in other words, the number of people who are engaging with your posts in relation to the number of people seeing your posts, that's a big thing. Another one is not the number of followers you have, but your follower growth is important, and especially in relation to the competitors you're paying attention to the most. So for example, let's say you're, and this can really tell you a lot. Like let's say right now, today, you make a note of how many Instagram followers you have, and then also how many your competitor has. And then 3 months or 6 months later, you go ahead and actually see what those numbers are again. Even if like they started out with a much higher number than you did, maybe they're growing at a slower rate, and that shows that there's actually that's an indication that you might be creating more excitement than they are. So look for that. Also, the reach rate would be helpful, and that is basically the number of people who are getting your posts, it seems, are getting your posts in their news feed compared to the number of people who are following you. That can just give you a realistic sense of how many, like how well are the different social media sites like delivering content in your newsfeed. And I will tell you, if you're doing videos, one of the best things you can do, and I'm going to do a video on this, but I want to just tell you right now what, like an idea that I have for you. Even if you don't plan on having a YouTube channel, what I do recommend, well, okay, you need a YouTube channel for this, but even if you don't plan on going big on YouTube, okay, what I do recommend is any videos that you put out there on, the other social media platforms, also put it on YouTube, because one of the YouTube metrics, and I study these like crazy, it's audience retention rate. And it will even show you a graph as your video is playing. I mean, just for you to say, of exactly when people are like exact moments when people are dropping off your video, and you could start seeing trends. And this has helped me immensely in understanding what people like, what people content people embrace. Like, and sometimes, like, when do people come, like, that you could tell they've they went back to the video to watch a part again, like the views increase in the middle of the video. So what is really resonating with people, and what are things that I might be saying or the way I'm showing things that aren't resonating? Because it's hard to do that with other social media platforms. They might say, oh, you got so many views, or if you're doing a video ad, it could say, okay, so here's how many people watched your video 75% of the way through, but it doesn't really tell you how, like, what at exactly what points what you're saying is doing what in people's minds. And so the audience retention graphs on YouTube are amazing. So if you already have the content, you're already putting it out there, I strongly recommend put on YouTube. And then if you get several views of it, or enough views of it, check out the graphs. They're really, really good. So I hope that gives you some ideas to start with.
And then I'm going to go out of order just because this was a question on a couple of people's minds. You recommended people use hashtags on, Instagram and Twitter, but not on Facebook. A couple
Yes.
people asked, just to clarify, that we shouldn't use hashtags on Facebook.
Correct. So now I know a lot of people use hashtags on Facebook, but I think it's one of the, and I'll explain why you shouldn't, but I think why it continues is because some people had the idea they should, and then other people imitated it. Okay. But the great majority, the huge majority of studies that I've seen about this is that the ideal number of hashtags on a Facebook post to help encourage the most engagement is 0. And there are a couple exceptions to this. But the main reason is that, remember that hashtags, even if you kind of dump them at the end of a post or whatever, or at the very end of it, they look like little hiccups. They look kind of weird. They don't look natural. They don't feel as human. They look a little salesy. I will say that. Okay. And they just hurt the nature of the post. So think of it from a visual and a feeling standpoint, first of all. And then also think of it from a, how's this really going to help you standpoint. On Facebook, think of user behaviors on the different platforms. So on Facebook, people are usually on Facebook because they want to check out, what their friends and family are doing, or the long lost cousin, or that, person from high school a long time ago. That's what they're checking out. They're just checking out, their news feed. So it's a very, very social platform. And, you just don't see people going onto Facebook and saying, I wonder what's going on hashtag digital marketing. People don't search for content that way on Facebook, like they are more likely to do on Twitter or Instagram, as an example, where hashtags are a lot more prominent. So they can clutter your posts, and from that respect, they hurt engagement, and they're not really serving you anyway. So those are some really good reasons. So even though you might see people do it, it's because they don't. It's because it's a bad habit that's growing, but it's not going to help you. I strongly recommend you don't do it.
Great question. Great answer. Another question here from the Q&A. This is just a clarification. You recommend reduce graphic down to 10%. What do you mean by that? Are you saying start with size X, reduce it by 90% to get to 10% of the original size? Just a clarification there.
Yes. Okay, let me go ahead and actually just show you. Sorry about this. Okay. What am I doing? Okay, let me go back to Canva right here. Where was it? Okay, I'll just have to go to all my designs. Bear with me. And okay, I'll just go to the coming soon one. Okay, so reducing to 10%, all that means is shrinking the view. So right now, actually, I'm at 34%. sorry, just bear with me. I have to move the Zoom thing in order to do this. Okay, so I only see at the very, very bottom of my screen, it says I'm at 34%. There's like a sliding scale, and that's 10%. So just like get it even like, so, and I would say that's even slightly smaller than it would actually show up on a phone, but can I still see a house? Does it still look really pretty? And can I see the words coming soon? Yes. Okay, good. Then this should work. Because what often happens is, and I've fallen into this trap where, you know, you're doing graphic design and you're doing it at a significantly larger, you know, you're doing everything kind of up close, but people aren't typically looking at your images in the end this up close, so you have to think of how they're going to be looking at it. So it's literally just zooming out. It's literally just zooming out. So you're seeing it at 10%. I don't know what it's 10% the size of. That was actually a really good question. But just, yeah, put it at the number 10%. Make it really small. I would just do that. That's a great question. Thank you.
Awesome. So then moving through the Q&A, this questioner asks, we are an HVAC company. Is video useful to us? If so, how can we incorporate videos without filming customers' homes and properties?
Ah, gotcha. So I know that yeah, HVAC could. There's a lot of fun you can have with HVAC, believe it or not. And so for example, I bet there are a lot of tips that you can provide regarding um, like I'm sorry, this is where I don't know a huge amount about HVAC, so I'm gonna like, I hope I'm not giving you like the bad examples here, but for example, it could be like air conditioner maintenance or things you should check on. And basically, even if you have even if like you're filming it in your home or in the home of one of your employees, so you're like pointing to one of the big pieces of equipment. Okay, I'm clearly not handy. Okay, I'm sorry about this. And saying, by the way, if you ever, if you see this, this is what it can mean, and you can kind of do tutorials that way. But you could also do videos, for example, of maybe there's just some things just going on with, your team, or maybe someone just had a um, a work anniversary. Maybe they've been working there for 5, 10 years, and you just like say, by the way, hey guys, come here, Bob. Bob has been with us for 10 years now, and we just want to congratulate him on his 10-year anniversary. And so you're just kind of talking to the camera, that type of thing. So you could always do something like that as well. But I think a lot of tutorials and educational things would be fantastic, because what you do is so service oriented. And obviously, there's a lot of, quality HVAC. There are a lot of quality HVAC systems out there and equipment out there, but ultimately it's the people who install it and service it are what make the difference. I hope that's how I perceive it. So you want to sell the people as much as possible, and the fact that you're a resource as much as possible.
Awesome. Okay, great. Another question, which is kind of about personal, business, social media interactions. So this client started a YouTube channel also with only their first name. They have the personal Facebook page and started sharing some videos on the personal page, but worry about making those posts public because the personal Facebook, right, has the first and last name. So for security, privacy reasons, should you create a separate Facebook page?
Okay, so the YouTube channel has just the first name, and but obviously if you're sharing it to your Facebook friends, I hope I'm understanding this correctly. It's going to.
So there's a YouTube channel that has your first name on it, and obviously your Facebook page, your personal Facebook page has both, and you're sharing videos from the YouTube channel to your personal Facebook page, but you don't want to make the personal Facebook posts public because of the first and last names. So should you create a separate Facebook page on which to post the YouTube videos? If I've got that wrong, question asker.
Oh, okay, now I understand. Yes, I would definitely do it separately. If privacy for what you're talking about is really that important to you, I would do it. The other thing to keep in mind is you may, I don't know what the channel is about, but for practically every YouTube creator, as they grow their channel, there become a lot of business opportunities. So you want to have a business presence And this might be a good excuse for you to do that, but set up as a, yeah, as a business page rather than a personal page. Definitely.
Great. And then there was some stuff in the chat about Twitter and TikTok. You talked a little bit about Twitter. Um, does how do these other social media platforms kind of fit in?
So, so I'll start with Twitter. With Twitter, what I usually recommend to a client is if they already have a presence on Twitter, um, they already have followers, they already have something going there. Like a few hundred followers, then, I'd recommend at least keeping it up. But if you're starting from scratch, I wouldn't. There are, some exceptions to that, but for the most part, the reason is on Twitter, the ideal number of tweets, I'm not making this up, I'm not exaggerating here. The ideal number of tweets to make a dent is 15 a day, 15 a day. And I don't have time for that. Even do one a day is hard. So what I do is, I have a bunch of, there are people I'm following on Twitter and they're following me and all that, different, business accounts and all that. So what I do is, I post approximately, 3 or 4 times a week, and I just make sure that my posts are also crafted as a tweet, and then when I put it out through socialpilot.co or buffer.com, that I make sure that I craft my normal post as also like a tweet, and it goes out at the same time on Twitter. So some exceptions, if you are doing a nonprofit, nonprofits can do really, really well on Twitter, because people love rallying, behind nonprofits. Also, if you have a special event, sometime like a special community event, that can work well with Twitter. But other than that, I wouldn't go too crazy with it. With TikTok, it totally depends on your business. The main type of content on TikTok is, well, it's video first of all, but it's like super exciting, funny. The ones that do well are like super exciting and funny and quirky and, like in your face. And unless and usually like very, with a lot of, there could also be a lot of editing too to, get things like looking just the way they should. But, unless you plan on having a lot of like fun, like a lot of like crazy, quirky, fun things, in a really, in a short video, I don't recommend necessarily going there unless, again, you have like a super young audience, and what I'm describing right now to you is your brand. Then that can be good. And the thing with TikTok is that you have to keep on posting video after video after video after video, and then eventually you'll gain some traction, but you do need to have a lot of patience with it. I will tell you, the clients except for one client I'm working with, none of my other clients is TikTok quite a fit. I know it's an incredibly popular platform. Just from a marketing standpoint and a brand voice standpoint, it's not a good fit for most of my clients, at least.
Awesome. What tips can you provide regarding recording and editing videos?
Okay.
Big small
Okay.
question.
No, it's okay. So I'm going to give you some really good information here. I do want to let you know, and I'm sorry you've heard this like a million times, but if you go to my Delaware Shoutout channel, I made a whole video, and the title, it's one of it's the most recent one, and the title is literally how I made my videos 1,000% better, literally. And it really talks about it. I literally made 1,000% better. Okay, so I talk about my whole learning process, but let me give you some of the some key things that I'm doing right now. Okay, so I will tell you, content is more important than equipment. Okay, but you do want to make sure that at least you have some type of camera where things are clear. I'm holding up my iPhone. I literally just use my iPhone. I have an iPhone 11. I just use that for recording, and I use iMovie, which is a free a free editing tool, for editing. So I do that, and oh gosh, there's so many things I love talking about video. There's so many things, but the main thing is, make sure that your video, um, a few things to keep in mind. Make sure that you edit your video such that you get to the point as quickly as possible. I mean, I'm talking about, like, in the first 5 to 15 seconds, like, people understand why they should be listening to your video, or why they should be watching your video, and what's in it for them. That should come out right away. And then also from an editing standpoint, try to have as much movement as possible. And that doesn't mean that you're running around per se, but it could be, for example, that, on iMovie, you can, and other editing programs, like, you can zoom in or zoom out, so you don't have to do that with your camera as you're recording, but you can make those effects happen. You can overlay with graphics if you want, so use those tools. And because people need visual excitement. And again, like and in the video I'm telling you about, the one where I talked about my videos getting better, I show you like a video I did last March when the pandemic was like really first going, and how horrible it was, and how things have gotten better since then, and all the different things I did. But go for movement, and get to the point, and don't feel like you have to invest in the best equipment. At some point, I am going to do a non-free editing tool, because there are a few things I want to do that I can't do with iMovie, or it's too difficult in iMovie. And at some point, I'd like to get a camera that allows me just to, there's a certain effect I want to do that I really can't do with my iPhone. But I mean, except for that, it's been fine. It's been fine. Oh, and I do make sure there's enough lighting. And I did invest also in a microphone as well. Um, so because sound, I learned the hard way. Sound is actually really important. So I do try to make sure that people are comfortable from an audio standpoint too. And it's just a microphone, and you'll see a visual of it in the video. But it literally just, it's a microphone that literally just plugs into my phone, and I just have it on a little stand, and I just talk into it. But you can also do the same thing if you wanted to get like a lavalier or anything like that, and then it just talks to your phone if you're doing it that way. Or if you have like you already have a nicer camera, it can talk that way. But again, I'm using the basic stuff, and um, it's been working really well.
And then a similar question, any best practices that you haven't already covered on building up video interaction with fans and advocates? How often should we be doing videos? What kind of content should be in videos?
Okay, so in terms of, and I might have you repeat the question again, because I'm going to try to do the bits here. So, okay, so in terms of interaction, some things you can do. One of them is, for example, just asking people in the middle of the video to, like, leave a comment, like, so, okay, I just talked about blah, 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 so what are your thoughts about this? And don't feel like you have to wait till the end to ask these types of questions. Like, ask things in the middle and just talk to people in the middle of things. What I also recommend, and this is gonna depend on your brand, and it might not be relevant to the person asking the question, but I know there's some of you out there it's gonna be relevant to, and that is, how do I put this? Have videos that are a little bit more personal. I'm not talking about like just throwing out all your baggage and your family and stuff like that, but for example, I'm a solopreneur, and when I can, I actually get my family, like my son might appear in a video to show something, or things like that. So things that can humanize your content more and get them to get to know you better. And on YouTube specifically, once you have at least 1,000 subscribers, and I hit that benchmark in May, so it took me about 10 months to get to 1,000. I started with 13, and I had a goal of getting 987 more. So I did that. I was like, yay. But once you have 1,000, you can do community posts. So in other words, you do a post that can show up in, on people's phones when they're, who are following you. And so I just did a community post today about, like, hey, I'm working on the next video, and I'm not getting one out this week, but I'm getting one out next week. And that also can allow for conversation as well. What were the other questions about community?
So the question,
or about interaction, I'm sorry.
yeah, what kinds of content, how often?
Okay. So in terms of what types of content, it totally it totally depends on what you do. For what I do, educational is by far the most, that's, I do a lot of educational content. It's going to depend on your business. But I will tell you, when you do educational, you do a lot of how-tos or things like that. It really presents yourself as it presents yourself and proves that you're an expert in what you do. So I might recommend that. In terms of how often, I started out doing videos twice a week, and it nearly killed me. So now I'm at once a week, and I might go down to every other week, maybe. I'm thinking about it, because I'm just getting pickier and pickier in terms of the quality that I want to have out there. But I don't. But I don't know. I'm on the fence. So, but in general, I'm still doing once a week ish right now. But it just depends. I mean, if you can't do once a week, if you have like other content that you want to put out like throughout the rest of the month, like maybe like write an article and share photos and all that, and then once a month you put out a nice video of some kind, start with some type of goal. And then like you might want to, it depends on if you're already doing video. If you already feel comfortable with it, and you feel like I could do once a week, that's fine. But keep in mind too that of your audience, like how much can they consume of what you put out there. One of the other reason I stopped doing twice a week is that I was watching like another YouTuber's video about this, but they said, okay, if you are like doing educational content, you're doing tutorials, and your tutorials have a lot of intense information in it, can people really handle that twice a week from you? Do they want it twice a week from you? And I'm like, no, I wouldn't watch myself twice a week. I think I put out good stuff, but I don't want to watch myself twice a week. So I probably, other people wouldn't want to either. So, so that was another reason. So think also, make your decision based on how often you feel that people would want to consume your content. And then I'm going to answer a question that you didn't ask, but so many people have asked that I want to answer it anyway, and that is how long a video should be. And the short of it is, make your video as long as it needs to be, but as short as possible. That is the rule. You might have heard, and actually all of us have heard, oh, only have the video 1 minute long or 30 seconds long, or stuff like that. But if okay, how do I say this and not sound obnoxious? And I can't, but basically, if you have a video that's super boring, yes, then please only make it 1 minute long. But if you have lots of good stuff to share, and I'm going to tell you, if you're already in this webinar, you want to know how to produce great content, okay? You already have a heart for putting out good things out there, okay? So I have a strong feeling that you guys, of all people, will put out good things. Make your video as long as it needs to do your content justice. So I have a couple videos that are about 1 minute long because that's all I had to share. Okay, but more of my videos are longer and longer. Like I think the longest I've gone right now is like 12 minutes or something like that, because I had 12 minutes of information to share. And you see how quickly, or you can hear how quickly I speak. I was talking that quickly the whole time in the video about that particular, whatever topic it was. So I have videos that are a lot longer. Okay, I do have an hour-long thing, but that was something completely different. And it was, it was like this. I tried to do this live event, and it was an hour-long thing. But everything else, like my pre-recorded stuff, is my average is 7 minutes. My average is 7 minutes, but I'm usually going up to 12 minutes, I would say. I know you didn't ask it, but it's a good, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
We only have like 3 minutes left here. Okay. Before we hit the time, and we have like 5 more questions. So we may not get to all of them. I'm just gonna start with a couple that are similar, which is how many posts per day on Facebook or Instagram? And then a separate question, which I think is sort of related. If you're just starting out with social media posting, should more posts be educational or promoting or promotional?
Okay, I'm going to answer those questions backwards, and those are fantastic questions. Well, actually, all the questions have been fantastic. So, okay, so in terms of promotional versus self-promotional, it actually depends a lot on your industry. Like, for example, if you are in an industry that it's exciting to you, but it's considered boring by the general public. I'm just thinking bookkeeping, for example, which, has a lot of intricacies to it, but not everyone can relate to it. Then you probably want more 80% educational and 20% self-promotional. And it doesn't matter whether you're just getting started or not, because you need to present yourself as a resource, but you still need to put yourself out there in terms of, hey, this is what I'm doing, So, I would, but if you are, let's say you're a caterer, then you can get away with something more like 50% self-promotional and 50% non-self-promotional, because people love looking at food, or hearing about food, or listening, whatever it is, like food just hits all of our senses. So think about that, but don't worry about like whether you're just getting started or not. I will say, I'd rather you err on the side of being too educational, because people are going to embrace you more when they see that your heart is in being a resource more than anything else. In terms of the frequency, every platform is a little bit different. But I just because I generally follow the same posting schedule with every single platform, just because I want to get my posts out there. But if Facebook is they don't recommend more than once a day. But I would say if you do 3 times a week, I think that's super, it's a healthy amount. Instagram, LinkedIn, I think is 5 times a week. Instagram, I think it's once a day. But again, if you, I'm trying to think what else. Twitter, we already talked about. Um, but I wouldn't worry about that as much. But I wouldn't post more than once a day on like Facebook, Instagram, et cetera, because you can burn people out. So I'm just going to take a drink of water. It's better to get. I'd rather you do something maybe just a few times a week and feel good about it and feel like it's sustainable. And like 3 times a week is generally a good amount for most businesses, especially if you're writing your post quickly.
Awesome. So those are great questions. So we are at time. So I just want to be respectful of everyone's time. There are a couple questions we didn't get to.
You're welcome to share my email address, or I can put it in the chat if people
I
have
will
questions.
put your email address, so it's on the screen, and I'll also drop it in the chat. We had somebody ask for your website, and they did want to just share that there was they tried to put their email in on your website, and it said there was an error that occurred. But your email address is right there, as is the website.
Okay.
And I've got. Go right ahead.
No, that's fine. I will check out what's going on with my website. Thank you for alerting me to that. I will check that out immediately. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that heads up, everybody. And then I'm going to share a couple links one more time. I'll share a link one more time to Brooke's YouTube channel, which is right here. And then if you haven't already gotten it, to our event survey, which I've shared a couple times as well. So thank you, everybody, for joining us today. If we did not get to your question, Brooke has generously shared her email address in the chat. But thanks for all your excellent questions. Thank you for participating, for being so engaging. This has been really great. So I will just say thank you to everybody. If you are interested in other upcoming events, be sure to check out the SBDC event page. And like Brooke has said, there's a lot more content covering this on the YouTube channel. Check all that out. And thanks, everybody. I hope everybody has a great rest of your afternoon and a great rest of your week. The thank yous, Brooke, are just rolling in the chat.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. The questions have been great. Thank you.
Awesome. Do you have anything else that you want to share in closing, Brooke?
No, I'm good. I think we covered a lot, but thank you.
Covered a lot of ground today. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
And I'm just going to go ahead and close us out. Thanks, everybody, for joining. I will hope to see all these great questions on future webinars too. Thank you, Brooke.
Okay, thank you. Take care.